Hi, everyone. Welcome to Acting Sessions. I'm Marco DiGeorge. I'm the co founder and instructor at Truthful Acting Studios. We're an acting conservatory located in Orlando, Florida. And from time to time, we come on and we do these sessions and just to talk about different aspects of acting. And today we've been very topic oriented for the past several sessions. And today we wanted to kind of take a step back and do a general Q&A because there have been so many questions that have been coming in on various topics. I kind of wanted to have a day where we just addressed a lot of the different issues, questions, topics that have been coming in. So I'm going to go through various questions that have already been submitted, but also during today's session, if we have the chat feature, if you're on with us live, and please feel free, put anything in the chat, any other questions you may have, and I will do my best to answer as many as possible before the end of today's session. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so the first question that we have is, what are some good websites to find castings? So this is one of the things where when you're first starting out as an actor, and this is typically before you have an agent. So as an actor, once you have an agent is the person that is going to connect you up with the auditions. That's your agent's responsibility. So the agent is connected in with professional level auditions, meaning paid level auditions, and they will be the one to coordinate that and send you out on those. But there's a time period that we have when we're beginning acting where we don't yet have an agent. We're not working at that level, at the professional level. So how do we find other castings in the area for us to audition for? And so the best way nowadays, is social media. Facebook is currently still a good resource for that. LinkedIn is a good resource for that, and a couple of others. But those are the best things to look for social groups that are in whatever area that you're in around the world. Look for social groups and search for the word casting or casting calls. And you'll typically find localized groups that are run that will list different castings in your area. And those are some of the better ways to do that. Also, for community theater, which is going to be the localized theater in your area, look directly on the theater's website, because that's going to be a good way to do that as well. They will list out what performances they have coming up, and then they will list out how to audition or what their casting process is. In addition, if you have any bigger schools in your areas, so universities in your area, look at their websites as well, because if your university has a film program, then typically those film programs are going to be looking for actors to help out with the student film projects. And that's another very good way to get involved. So I would start in those areas, and it's a good way to start as you work your way through the industry. And then the other thing is, if you're involved in a class, typically a class or a studio can also help you connect in with different castings in the area. All right. So next question. How can you overcome the fear of working with senior or celebrity artists? So this comes up quite frequently. So when I'm training actors, many times they'll have an opportunity to work on a film or a TV show, and they're working opposite actors that are either well known in the industry or have been working for a long time. And of course, this might be your first or second, or you're early in the process and you're working along very experienced actors. So there's an anxiety that goes along with that. You want to make sure you're doing a strong enough job. So the first thing I would say is make sure you are well trained. The more training you have, the deeper of a process you have, it's you're going to feel more confident in what you're going to do as an actor. So that's the first thing I would say. As much training as you can, because once you develop a process, then you can simply bring that process to whatever production you're on. And then the next thing I would say is be the hardest working person in the room. Take every moment seriously. Really make sure you're listening to what's happening around you. Listen to the instructions of the director. Listen to the instructions of the assistant director. Really be paying attention to what's happening, what your responsibilities are. But really take every moment seriously. Because yes, these experienced actors, they've been doing this for a while. They might look more casual in their appearance. They might seem a little more easygoing, but it's only because they're more comfortable with the process. They've been doing this for years. And so now it's your turn to come in. You need to make sure that you can hold your own with them. And you will be able to if you take it seriously, if you work hard enough. And that's really it. When you put your focus outward, you put your focus on what you need to do, like, your character in this moment. What are you really trying to accomplish? What do you need from the other person in the scene? Make sure you're well memorized in your lines and go do what you need to do, and everything else will work out okay. So next question. How do you act in a way that is relatable and realistic to the audience? So this is as far as being relatable or realistic, this is where deep process comes in. This is where you as an actor, we need to train for a very long period of time. We need to train on how to ground ourselves into this thing called the moment. So the thing that is believable. So as an audience member, we always want the audience to believe what they're watching, whether it's on stage or on film or television. And so in order to make a performance believable and then also truthful, what we need is we need to ground ourselves into a moment. And what that means is when you're watching something, and this goes all the way back to the beginning of the training. So I teach something called the Sanford-Meisner approach. And the Sanford-Meisner approach is based on really living in a moment. It's the ability to live truthfully under imaginary circumstances. And that's what we're after as actors. And what that means is we're not performing truthfully, we're not acting, but we're living truthfully. And to live means to be, right? To exist in a moment without trying to control that moment. And so when we're acting and we're stepping into a character, when we're memorizing dialogue and we know what we're going to say and we know what our partner's going to say back, but the concept of living in a moment means we need to let go of all of that. We need to really be here in this moment, right here, right now. And as we do that, we need to put all of our focus on the partner in front of us. And so we need to really talk to them, and then we need to really listen to what is being said to us. Because the thing that breaks the relatability or the realism to an audience, the thing that breaks that is when one actor is not really listening to another one. Because if we're not really, so if our scene partner says something to us, and we are, instead of really listening, we hear the line, we know it's our next time to speak, and then we simply say our next line. Well, when we do that, when we simply speak our next line, without really listening and taking in what was said to us first and in a very personal way, well, then all of a sudden it feels inauthentic. it feels like we're simply responding back, we're saying something, but it's not coming from a reaction. And so this is what we need to work on as actors. And this is where much of the training is focused on, is something called really talk and really listen. So we need to have the ability to, when we say something, we're really saying it. We're not just reciting dialogue, but we're really saying these words to another human being, from one human being to another one, right here, right now, in this moment. And then when someone is talking to us, we're really listening, as if it's being said to us for the first time. And of course, as an actor, we rehearse over and over and over. But we have to have the ability to really listen, take it in as a human being, have a reaction to that, and then authentically and truthfully respond back. And so that's what we work on. That's really what the process of acting is all about. We think when we first start getting into acting, we think it's about, maybe as simple as, oh, we just need to memorize a script. Or we think it has something to do with, we need to pretend like we're the character. And the truth of acting is that there really is no character. This is a as an actor, and when I say there is no character, we talk in terms of character. We talk in terms of these other people that we're stepping into that exist in the story. But at the same time, we, the actor, we are stepping into, right, an actual life. When we are really saying these things, it's us, the human being, that's really saying it. When someone is talking to us, we, the human being, are the ones that are really listening. And because of that, right, because of that, there really is no character. When I hear, when actors begin training, and they start talking in terms of character, and they're talking, right, they talk about the character as if it's separate from them, it's a third person from them. What ends up happening is they end up thinking about this person that they are going to portray. They think about it as something separate from them. And when you think about a character as something separate from you, then all of a sudden you start playing that. You start replicating the idea of what you think this should look like, of what you think this should sound like. And then we lose the relatability. We lose the authenticity to the audience. So our job, as we're stepping into acting, is to really say the things that we have to say. One human being to another one. Don't pretend to say it, really say it. When something is being said to us, we have to take it in and take it personally. As personal as we can. Everything that's being said to us, we take it and we allow it to affect us. We allow ourselves to have a reaction to it. And then we respond back. And so as we go through that, back and forth, that all of a sudden allows the audience to believe what's happening on stage. Because in essence, what's happening is truthful. What's happening is really happening right now. I'm not simply saying a line because it is scripted. I'm saying it in response to what was being said to me. And then because it's believable, it now allows the audience to feel what's happening underneath. And then you relate to it. As an audience, you relate to things in your own way. You relate to things through your own lens, so to speak. And if the actor is doing their job, it opens that door for the audience to then relate to it in their own way. All right, so the next question is it ever too late to begin acting? And is there an age limit to acting? So the good news is no. It's never too late to begin acting. That is the good news. There is no age limit to that. And there are many other either arts, sports, different industries that do gear themselves to different ages. The beautiful thing about acting is there's no age limit, meaning you can begin acting as a child, you can begin acting as a teenager, you can begin acting in your 20s, but you can also begin acting in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. Some of our older students are in their 70s and 80s. So you can act at any age because our stories, the ones represented on film, television, theater, our stories talk about all the different generations. We have characters of all different ages. And so we need actors of all different ages. And so it's one of the things I love about the art form is that it's really for anybody. Anybody at any age. You don't have to, even if you've had a pretty full life, you've had a career, you've had maybe a family, you're going to retire now, and now you want to do something else at a retirement age. Yes, great. You can get involved in acting right then. And so it's absolutely, I love it because acting is, I look at it, it's for anybody. It's for anyone that has a passion to do it. It's still hard work, but I'm a big believer that anyone can do it. All right, so what is the best way to perform a monologue? So let me just talk about what a monologue is in case somebody is not sure. So a monologue is typically an audition piece for theater. And it's when one person, you go up to audition, you stand on stage, and it's just you. It's a single person with dialogue for about a minute to a minute and a half, right? So you're reenacting a piece of a scene, but it's only where your character is talking. And we call it a monologue, right? It's a single person speaking. That's it. And it's a great evaluation tool for auditioning in theater. And so that's why we use it in that platform. There are also monologues, of course, that exist. Monologues are pieces of text that are pulled right from plays. They're pulled from TV shows. They're pulled from movies. So they exist in those things too. And it's again, and even in those mediums, it just means when one person is speaking for a longer period of time. We call that a monologue. So the best way to perform that is we apply the same tools of everything we do as an actor. So the same way we do a scene, we actually learn how to perform monologues. Now, the difference in a monologue, we typically stand, and as I said, it's normally for theater. So we would stand on stage, and we would look, off. We'd look over the audience, and we perform the monologue. So what we have to do is we have to pretend out of our imagination. We have to see who we're talking to out of our imagination in the audience, and we talk to them. So what I would say for performing a monologue, one, we need to work on imagination. We need to work on your ability to really see something over there, like really talk to somebody. And then what we do is out of our imagination, out of our mind's eye, we really do. And then it's very similar to a scene. So if we had a monologue that existed in a scene, in a film, in a TV show, in a play, well, we would have the other character there that we're talking to. So when we work the monologue, when we initially begin constructing it, we work it with a partner. We have a scene partner, and we work it as if we were running it live for the play. And the reason we do that is to get the actor we get you in the condition of actually responding and talking to another human being. And then we simply remove the partner and we shift you looking out over the audience. And now, but you have the memory of working with that partner and you still really talk to them out of your imagination. The trap that monologues give actors, when they perform them. The trap is that actors tend to overact them. And by overacting, what I mean is that they're not really talking to anybody. They go into showing what they think it should look like, or changing their voice to what they think it should sound like. And they're not really saying it. They're not really talking to another human being. They're not really listening. Even though there's no one actually out there you're talking to, out of your imagination there is, and we still need to take all of that information in. How is that other person being? How are they reacting right now? Like, what's happening over there? And then we let that in and let that affect us. So that's really when we construct monologues. It's very similar to dialogue. It's very similar to scene work. But now it's just your side of it. It's if on film the camera is just on you in this scene and you're speaking. And that's really all that is. Another quick couple things when it comes to monologue was really education for all of acting. Voice is very important, meaning make sure you're speaking in a loud enough, clear voice. If the audience can't hear you, then nothing else that you're doing really matters. So we work on, in our acting training, learning how to really use our voice. And then also part of voice is enunciation, making sure that everything you say can be clearly understood by the audience. And we use that with pacing, meaning we make sure we don't speak too fast. And we also make sure that we are enunciating, like really speaking and forming the words that we are saying. And in that way, the audience, whoever's watching the monologue, or really this is for any performance, whoever's watching and observing, clearly understands what you are saying and what's happening. And that's a key element to the whole thing. All right, so next question. What is the best inexpensive way to set up lighting and sound for a self-tape audition? So there's this term in the industry called a self-tape, and it goes back many, many years when we actually used tape. We no longer do that. It's digital. But we still have the term self-tape. And what this means, there are auditions where a casting company or production will ask you, the actor, to say, hey, if you want to audition for this, provide us a self-tape with this material. And it could either be a monologue, it could be a scene that they give you, and you record it on your own, and then you send in that digital file to them in whatever way they ask you to do that. And this is great for a couple different reasons. This helps the logistics of holding a casting. So, because instead of the casting director having to get a room somewhere and have you come out and audition in person, you can actually just submit it in, and they can watch it back and do the initial evaluation that way. It also allows them to get more actors in a wider area, because if you live in another city but you still want to audition for this one, you can with this self-tape auditioning. So this has become a very common practice in the industry, is to self-tape. But the issue is that when we ask actors to send in their own remote submission or self-tape, sometimes it doesn't look good or sound good. Not their performance. Their performance is fine, but it's either too dark, they have poor lighting, or the sound, you can't really understand it. So both of those things are quite important. So I'm going to show you a quick diagram of, this is the real basic thing called 3-point lighting. And if you're setting up basic lighting for anything, you want to make sure that you can be clearly seen. And so there's a concept of 3-point lighting that basically tells us that we have 2 points of light from the front and a single point of light from the back. It's what I have set up here right now in in my area. I have two lights coming from either side, which then light up the front of me, the front, my face, and everything else. I can be clearly seen. But then to give it depth, I need to have a light source coming from the back of me. And that's this light here that you see kind of on the back of my head and on my shoulders. It comes from the back of me. And that allows you to be clearly seen. Now, of course, how do we do this and where do we get the lights? Well, there's many different places. I mean, you could search online for 3-point lighting or a basic lighting kit, and there's all different ranges. You don't have to spend a lot of money for this. But what I would say is that if you can spend a couple $100 and get a full kit. They come with the stands, the lights, I mean everything you need. But let's say you don't have a large budget to do that. So the best thing to do is you can even go to like a thrift store, right, or a discount store, and just get some basic lamps, like a lamp with a shade on it. You want to have a shade on it because it's called diffusion. It takes a light source, and as it goes through the shade, it scatters the particles and it makes it softer when it hits you. And just buy 3 lamps for a couple bucks each. And you put those lamps right in front of you on either side, and just off of the camera, because the camera is directly in front of you, and then you move those just until they get off of camera on either side of you, and you have those lamps. And you'll have to adjust it and play around with it a little bit just to see how it looks. You don't want to be too bright, but you don't want to be too dark or shadowy. You just want to have a nice even look to it. And you take the third lamp and you'd put it behind you somewhere, like on the ground or just somewhere where you can't really see it, and you allow that to light some of the back of you. That's the easiest, most inexpensive way, is to just use inexpensive secondhand lamps. So that's number one. As far as sound, really nowadays cell phones have come a long way. Right, our phones can do so much, and if you have any sort of newer phone, you can use that as your camera. Right, you put that in front of you, and it points to you. Right, in this way, and then these have built-in microphones, and because the phone is usually only about maybe 2 feet in front of you, if you speak clearly, that will be strong enough sound for the recording. So that's a really good way to do it. If you're speaking with volume, if you're speaking clearly, and you reduce all of the other sound around you too. Make sure you shut off anything that you can that is making a louder noise, including air conditioning, any loud appliances. I mean, just anything. You want to reduce the sound as much as you can around you, and then that is fine. If you need something else, they sell microphones. They sell little pinned microphones. They're called lavalier microphones that can kind of clip onto you, and then there's a wire, and you plug that into your camera or to your phone, and those work as well. And that will be localized, much like this microphone. It's usually right here. It's very localized to you and picks up sound very clearly. You can get those very inexpensively. And so those are some ways that I would recommend setting up for that. All right, so next question is, how do you prepare yourself for an audition? So Larry Silverberg, who's a renowned acting instructor, teaches the Meisner approach. He's my teacher. Was asked one time, hey Larry, how do you work on auditioning? What's the best way to learn auditioning? And he answered it in a very simple but yet profound way. And he says, well, if you want to learn how to audition, learn how to act. And I've found that very, very interesting. It's like, wow, so simple. And it almost sounds like he's making a joke, but he's very serious. Auditioning is a small little subset of acting, of everything we do. For example, if we're going to a theater audition, the theater audition itself is a small version of what the whole play is going to be. A film audition is a small version of everything we're going to be doing on a film set. So the more we understand the overall acting process, then the more that we understand then how to audition. So, and I say that first because that's really, we apply the same tools on working on a role that we would to an audition. So the first thing as far as preparing for an audition, we need to answer some questions. So typically in a film audition, we'll go there, we'll go film audition. We don't necessarily have the material ahead of time. You show up to the audition, and then when you show up, they hand you the material. It's called a side, S-I-D-E. And they hand that to you, which is a small scene. And they, you have typically 10 to 15 minutes to review that scene and then perform it to them. Now, that's all done on purpose, meaning there's a reason that you're handed the material with only a few minutes to look it over. It's because we want to see what the actor is going to do with the material without having a lot of time with it, because it bypasses all of the thought that you could have about it, and it just, I want you to jump into your creativity, and that's really what we're evaluating. So the best thing to do for an audition, number one, breathe. Because I want to see your creativity, not your thought, I need you to take some deep breaths. Right? I need you to really ground yourself into this moment. When you have the material, I need you to figure out some basic things. Now, number one, I don't need you to memorize it. If I'm handing it to you 15 minutes prior to the audition, I do not need you to memorize it at all. You're going to hold it when you're in the room. You actually hold the side while you're auditioning. So rather, I want you to understand what's happening in the scene. And by that is mean you need to make some choices. What's the relationship that's happening right now? I need you to figure that out. Make a choice on that. I need you to make a choice of where you're emotionally coming from. Meaning what is happening that drove you into this moment from an emotional standpoint, and that is causing you to fight for whatever you need. And then that's the third thing. What are you fighting for? What do you need in this moment? So those are things that you have to just work on over and over and over again. And you get better at it, but it's just answering those questions. What's the relationship, right? Who is this other person in the scene that you're talking to? And when I say relationship, I don't mean just giving it a title like brothers or sisters or friends or coworkers, but give it a specific type of relationship. Give it how do you feel about them right now? That's an important element. So figure out the relationship, the specific relationship. Figure out where you're emotionally coming from, right? What has motivated you to come into the scene or to begin saying these words from an emotional standpoint? And then what must you accomplish by saying these words to another person? And that is the main preparation we do for an audition, figuring out what we call the big three big things that we have to answer for ourselves before we go into the room and we run this scene. And if we know those things, the scene will come to life. The scene will have purpose. Remember, it's not about memorization. You're going to hold the scene in your hand. It's about everything's over there, really talking and really listening, what I was mentioning before. And so if we answer those three questions, it helps us accomplish that. Okay, so the next question. How can I be clear while delivering a long monologue? Okay, so I talked about earlier in monologues about vocal clarity. It's something that's very important. But when you have a longer monologue, typically we don't use long monologues for auditioning anymore. For an audition process for a theater, I really don't want a monologue more than 1 minute. But within a play, within a film, sometimes there are longer monologues. In plays, sometimes you might have a 8 minute or 10 minute monologue. And so to be clear in delivering something for 10 straight minutes when you're talking, you must know what you're talking about. That's the number one thing. You must really understand the material, and you have to make the material your own. It's not enough to know what the character is talking about, but you must also know what it means to you. And that's a process in acting called personalization. It's taking the words and the actions of the character that are on the page and truly making them one of the actor, of you. So that when you speak these words, you know what you're talking about, and you also know what you're trying to accomplish by saying them. What do you want from the other person? Are you trying to get them on your side? Are you trying to change their mind about something? But what are you doing specifically? And then really do it. Like, really change their mind. Really get them on your side. What that will do right there is that will add variety to your monologue. Because if you're really trying to get someone on your side and you're really talking and really listening, you will be what we call in adjustment. You will have to adjust to how they are being. You'll have to adjust to, well, are they on your side yet? Or are they understanding you? Are they agreeing with you? Or are they disagreeing with you? And you have to adjust and change how you're doing it based on what your partner is doing. So with long monologues, it has to do with really talking to the other person, really doing whatever it is that you need to do, and then be an adjustment moment after moment after moment. Another thing, this is going to sound more technical, and it is when we first learn it, but it's something that's very powerful, is a change in rhythm. And what I mean by that, let's say you have an 8 minute monologue. We don't want to speak for 8 minutes in the same pattern, in the same tone. There might be parts we go through more quickly, and then there might be parts where we slow it way down. And the change in rhythm, we have to figure out, and there's some playing around with it, but what are we really trying to accomplish? In our daily lives, we adjust the rhythm of our speaking patterns. We adjust that subconsciously. When you're talking to someone, you actually automatically adjust your rhythm of your voice based in what's happening, based in if the other person's on your side, if they're not on your side, or whatever's happening in that moment. But sometimes I'll see longer monologues, and the actor is saying it all in the same rhythm, basically like the same way, and it comes across as inauthentic. And so we need to make sure that we're adjusting that. When I teach this, it's part of what I call craft. When I teach the craft of acting, it does feel very technical at first, but the more you work with changing rhythm, the more you work with trying to find, okay, what parts do I want to go slower through, which means those are the more critical parts I want the audience to understand, and then you speed up another part. The more you play around with that in monologues, the easier it becomes, and the more you'll realize, wow, it actually feels more natural. So even as I've been talking through this session, I've had changes in rhythm. I've had changes in tone. But I'm not even thinking about it, right? None of it was planned. But my natural way of speaking is to have things I'll go quicker through and then things that I'll slow down on. Even some silence in between, which is called a thinking moment, right? It's a moment to gather my thoughts and then move on to the next thing. In longer monologues, we have those as well. So all of these things go into serving longer monologues, or even just longer material in general. All right, so here's something that came up. What are the red flags of scam agencies? This is something that, as a beginning actor, you do need to watch out for. You need to watch out. And really, I say beginning actor. It's really anybody in the industry. But once you get deep enough in the industry, you know exactly what to watch out for. There are things called scams out there, and scams in the acting industry take the form of acting classes. They take the form of acting agencies or even productions themselves. A typical scam type of agency or production is, and there are some big ones out there, worldwide agencies that try to get you to come in and sign on, and for thousands of dollars, and they promise the world to you. Right now, if first of all, in acting, really in any of the art forms, in anything in life, if anyone is promising you something, I would take caution to that. Nobody can promise you anything in this industry. There's so many different variables. So even when if you train with me at Truthful Acting, I can't promise that you're going to be a famous actor. The only promise I make you is how hard I will work with you to teach you the tools so that you can use in your career in whatever way you choose. But there's no one out there in the industry that can truly promise you anything like that. And the moment they do, it's a scam. It's like, okay, well, what do they want from me then? And so there's scams all over the place. A lot of times they'll do it in form of acting classes. They'll be like, okay, yes, we want you to join our class, but you also, in order to join our class, you need to take new headshots, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, right? They're trying to get a lot of money out of you in different ways. Or they'll say, take my class because this celebrity took it, and look at them. To me, that's a huge flag of trying to promote other celebrities that have gone through it. You got to just be careful with that. So agencies will never ask you for money up front. This is something that's very important to understand in the industry. An agent, which is something that all actors need at some point, they make money when you make money. They take a percentage, anywhere between 10 and 20%. They take a percentage of what you make. That's how they make their money. So when you sign with an agency, if they ask you for any money up front, I'd be very careful about that. And there are agencies out there. It's like, oh, I'm going to sign you to my agency, and I'll be able to send you out on all these auditions, but I just need $500 to sign you. It's like, no, that's not okay. That's a red flag. The other one is where they try to upsell headshots. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to sign you with the agency, but you need new headshots, and you need to use our exclusive headshot photographer, and it's only going to cost you $2,000. This is another very common type of red flag and scam in the agency. There's no money needed up front. They make money when you make money. That's how it works. Casting directors will never ask you for money up front. Agencies will never ask you for money up front. Classes, sure, you're going to pay for classes and for education, but my biggest advice there is talk to other actors that have trained in that school. Like, actually go online and look at reviews. See if you can actually talk to other actors that have gone through the experience, maybe on social media. But do your homework there. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. In this industry, nothing can be promised to you. And so understand that. So when you're walking through, sometimes in shopping malls and in plazas or maybe even online, there'll be certain companies, big companies that will promise you, oh, do you want to be the next star? Just sign up for it. It's like, well, nobody can promise you being a star. There's so much luck that goes into making it to a high celebrity status. No one can promise that. And so just be very careful. Unfortunately, there are people out there that try to take advantage of your hopes and dreams. I don't think it's right, and I do not like it when I see it. But the best thing I can tell you is just be careful. Don't jump on anything. Don't sign anything without having someone else look it over, or you making sure you really look it over. And if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. There are no shortcuts in this industry. Being an actor, I'm a strong believer that anyone can do it. If you have the passion, the drive, the work ethic, I really believe anyone can do it. But it's a long road. It takes an incredible amount of training. It takes an incredible amount of hard work. It takes dedication, and it takes consistency. And if you do that over and over and over and over and over again, it can lead to success as an actor. Absolutely. Whether it's on stage, whether it's in television, whether it's in film, commercials, public speaking, any of that. You can absolutely have success doing that. But there's no short way to get there. The way I see this also, and this is across our country, and I'm sure all over the world, is with certain acting classes that will promise you, it's like, oh, well, you don't need to go study for 4 years in a conservatory. Come study with us, and in 6 months we'll get you into the industry, or do the same thing. And it's like, well, no, they can't shortcut the process. They can't shortcut the training. It doesn't work like that. I like to look at acting similar to some other industries, like the legal industry or the medical industry, in the sense that if I'm looking for a doctor, I want to find a doctor that actually went through medical school all the way and did their residency, and they're well trained. I don't want to go to the doctor that did a short 6-week course and that's it, like the shortcut course, and they all of a sudden got some sort of certificate. It's like, no, I want the one that's better trained. Well, the acting industry wants better trained actors as well. And we see that. We see that by who they're casting. They cast many actors that come out of London, that come out of Australia, simply because these are very well-trained actors. That's why they appear to be better than some others. They're only better because of the work that they've put into it. That's really it. Okay, so just want to go to the chat real quick and just see what I'm missing here. All right, so we had just one question I want to get to real quick, and it's so you're doing acting videos in TikTok. TikTok's a wonderful platform, by the way. Very, very fun. Very fun, so I do like that. Some of my videos, you're not getting many views. You're trying your best. So, okay, so I'm a big fan of TikTok. I'm a big fan of YouTube and all of the platforms that give you an outlet. However, there are algorithms built into it, meaning what people see and how you get any sort of notoriety on there, how you get views, and sometimes it can be very difficult to break into those platforms. And sometimes it could be what you're doing. But many times it's just you're just not getting the views. You could be putting out a great video, but for whatever reason in the algorithm, it's not being put out there. The biggest thing about TikTok and the biggest thing about YouTube and YouTube Shorts and all of these different platforms are consistency. What they look for is how consistent are you putting material out there. Also, with TikTok, it's short material. When we go to a platform like that, we're not looking for longer material. I mean, YouTube, like I'm on, the YouTube Live, which is where I put all of my stuff. I have longer material on there. But if I go to TikTok, I'm looking for something that's 30 seconds. I'm looking for something that's maybe under a minute, or maybe even 20 seconds. I want little short snippets. And you begin to get more views with shorter material. So I would first try making sure you're using short material, and then try to post as consistently as you can. If you could do one a day, if you could do 3 a week, but at least something that you're putting out there, and then have fun. One of the things about TikTok is it's about fun, and so try not to get too serious about it there, but more allow your personality to showcase, allow who you truly are to come through, and people identify with that, and they have fun with that, and so that's what I would recommend for that. Don't give up though. Don't make look, like if you have social platforms, which I think are wonderful, uh, don't make them for other people. Make them for yourself. Make the material you want to make. Make the material you enjoy making. Say the things that you want to say, or do the things or skits or whatever it is that you want to do. Don't worry about anybody else. If you're having fun doing it and you're doing something that you truly enjoy, then eventually you will gain an audience that will follow that. So try that, and that's what I would recommend. Let's see. Another question was, do you offer on-site or online intro experience? So we offer both. We offer online classes and we offer on-site. Our on-site are, of course, here in Orlando, Florida, and we start new semesters 3 times a year: January, May, and September. So very similar to the university structure, because I also teach at the university here in the film department, and our style of teaching at Truthful Acting is very similar to what we do in the university. And so, but we teach in person, but we have students around the world that join us online, and we also have an online platform where you can be connected into the live class, and you're still live with us in that class, but you're virtual. You can see us, hear us, we can see you, hear you, and you can be involved in discussions, exercises, the whole thing. We have plenty of information on that on our website, and it talks through all of those different things. We're also going to be introducing pretty soon. We're going to be introducing online material that is work at your own pace. And that is something where it's a course. It's a very similar course to what I would teach in person, but it's in a video format and material format. It's structured like a university course, and you can watch it and take it at your own progression as you go through it. And we'll have more information on our website as that becomes available as well. So we have different ways to get involved. I know Samantha put in the chat as well that you can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to discuss anything you have. You can email us at info@truthfulacting.com if you have specific questions. We'll be happy to talk through that, or you can call or text us at the number below, and you will get Samantha in both of those cases. She will be the one that you will talk to directly in that. If you if you're ever in the Orlando area and you like to stop by and see the studio, you can text us or email us, and we can set up a time for you to come in. We love touring our studio to new people, and we'll show you what we're all about. What we teach at Truthful Acting is based in something called the Meisner approach. Now, Meisner is named after Sanford Meisner, who is one of our founding grandfathers of modern day acting. So acting kind of developed over the 1900s, and it went from something called representational acting, which was very showy It had to do with showing the audience with gestures and different things of what the character was feeling. And it turned into truthful acting. And truthful acting was having the experience of really living it in the moment, really feeling the things that the characters are feeling. Sanford Meisner is one of the our gurus of acting, modern day acting, that developed an approach on how to do that. And his approach, the one thing I personally love about it, which is why I base my training on top of his, is that it's based in the human experience, meaning it's based in psychology. So the approach itself builds on top of who you actually and truly are as a human being. And I love that. I love that the approach to acting doesn't ask you to be anything different than who you actually and truthfully are. And I think there's something magical about that, because so many times in life we think we have to be different than who we are. We have to change who we are. We have to become something different. And really, with this approach, it's like, no, not only is it saying you don't have to be anything different, but it also is saying, let's embrace the fullness of yourself. And then let's let that out and show the world. And let's let that fuel your acting. And the best of the best actors do this. This is what they are based on and what they ground their approach in. And it's liberating, because then you feel good, and you feel like you're enough. And that's one of the main things that happens in the world today, is we feel that we are not enough. And so with this approach, it's based on the founding principle that you are enough. And once we let that in, we let ourselves be who we truly are. We have another saying in our studio: who you truly are is magnificent and totally unique. So we allow that to be the foundation of then what we build on top of. And we realize that, well, we don't need to change who we are to become an actor. We need to allow ourselves to be us, to be an actor. And that's what we build an entire process on. So that's just a little insight on what we teach. We teach outward focus, really connecting in with another human being, and then really talking and really listening. And then, there's some core exercises that we establish as actors, and then we build the process up from there. The neat thing about the process is it can be applied to any medium, meaning you can apply it to film, television, stage, public speaking, live performance. I mean, all sorts of different areas. It applies to all of that. We even have several, we have attorneys that take our program. We have business people that take our program. Directors take our program to learn how to better interact with actors. And it helps you with your interactions throughout life. So that's a little bit of what we do in a nutshell. But we have gotten to the end already. So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. We'll be having our next session coming up soon. I'll be announcing that shortly. And we'll go back to a topic-based session next time. And then I will hopefully see you all back with us. So thank you all so much.